So,
Okay.
happy to speak with you. How is Georgia doing?
Very good, actually.
Very good.
But
thanks for the invitation. I'm ready to answer all your questions, please.
Okay, the first question is about Ukraine and about the ongoing situation there. Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, demands that NATO does not expand to the east anymore. Do you think NATO could give up on Ukraine?
No, never, never. Because NATO is a defense alliance, and countries that want to join, they are very welcome. And NATO has the so-called open door policy for all European countries. So Ukraine is a European country. It has in the constitution that they want to join NATO. So for sure, it will join NATO by time. Of course, there must be some criteria, preparations, but there is no doubt that Ukraine will be a NATO country.
Despite of being optimist, Russia still sends troops along the border of the Ukraine. And in 2008, Russia attacked Georgia, and then it continued in Ukraine. And Putin actually did it when the Olympic Games were ongoing, so that the attention of media would be more focused on the Olympic Games. Do you think it is the right time for Putin, for Mr. Putin, to actually attack Ukraine and do the same in Ukraine like he did in Georgia?
In the tragic events of 2008 in August, it was a terrible attack by Russia against Georgia. We were very surprised. To be honest, we were surprised and we were not prepared. And to our great shame, also in 2014, we were not prepared and we were surprised. But this time in 2022, we are no longer surprised and we are absolutely prepared. So there will be, in my view, if there will be a major invasion of Russia into Ukraine, you can be sure there will be a very strong supply and support of Ukraine's defense. And we will mobilize all the military and fiscal capacities of the Western world to help Ukraine sustain the blows of the Russian army. And we will defend Ukraine 100%. Yeah? Militarily, we can probably not, to be clear, but financially, industrially, with our military industrial capacities. And this will be very decisive. And Russia is in no position to win a long sustained war in Ukraine when Ukraine is backed by the West. And we will back Ukraine 100%.
Okay, let's move on to the topic of Eastern Partnership and how it's going to develop itself. Last year, Polish and Lithuanian MEPs agreed that during their presidency, they would work on the EU membership talks about Georgia. Do you think it is the right time for it, or is EU ready for it to start talking about Georgia's EU membership even for the future?
Yes, absolutely, it's the right time, and that's why I support so much the European Union membership of Georgia since many years. And it's now the perfect time because Georgia is very well prepared. So is also Ukraine and Moldova. And the three countries, they really want to join the European Union. And so I call very often, everywhere I can, that the new status of Ukraine and of Georgia and of Moldova is no longer the Eastern Partnership, because I think it's necessary to finish the Eastern Partnership. The best way actually would be for Georgia and Ukraine and Moldova to unilaterally end the Eastern Partnership, because it's no longer working, because of the takeover of Russia of Belarus, and also because of the conflict with Armenia. So the situation is, it makes no sense anymore. So it's much better for Ukraine and Georgia to join the Southeastern European countries who are already on the way to the EU in the Regional Cooperation Council, in the Central European Free Trade Agreement, and to really work in that direction. This is absolutely the best way for Georgia and for Ukraine directly to focus on EU membership and to get ready for that.
Okay. Do you think Eastern Partnership finished itself? Because you mentioned that Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova should only literally finish the partnership, Eastern Partnership.
Look,
Do you
I
think
think
Eastern
yes.
Partnership finished itself and these countries could further integrate by applying for the EU membership?
Yes, 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 absolutely. That's what I want to say. In the present form, the Eastern Partnership is no longer useful. It has to be stopped, or it has to be, in my view, Eastern Partnership is useful for Central Asian countries. So it's very good for Kazakhstan and for Uzbekistan, very nice. And maybe also to keep Armenia and Azerbaijan in Eastern Partnership, because they're Eastern partners. They can not so fast join the European Union. But the real European countries, where culturally, politically, historically, the European future is 100% clear. And that is Georgia, is absolutely a European country since 2000 years. And it is from all context and from all aspects in its political, philosophical, economic direction. It's a European country, so it must join the European Union. And this will be the case. Have no doubt in your heart or in your mind that Georgia will join the European Union. It's just, you know, we have to sell this and explain this as well to the Europeans, because it's a bit far away. You know, it's also a bit complicated. So it's the task now to explain that this will happen. But it would be very good if Georgia now, first of all, leaves the Eastern Partnership. Secondly, joins the Central European Free Trade Agreement. Thirdly, applying to the Regional Cooperation Council, and send a letter for the application to the European Union, to Brussels directly, officially by the parliament and also by the government, directly to Brussels, the letter like Austria did it in the year 89. On the famous 17th of July, Mr. Mock, our great European hero, there was a lot of people against it, but he made it in the government. He sent a letter to Brussels and he said, we are, as Austria, we want now, at the end of the Cold War, we want to be a full member of the European Union. And many people in the European Union didn't believe it, didn't want it. And many people in Austria didn't want it, because they said, no, Russia will not like it. Russia will not like Austria joining. We have to be careful with the Soviet Union at that time still. But Mr. Mock did it. And we need the same courage and leadership now from Georgia, where one prime minister, one president, one foreign minister, they signed a letter and send it to Brussels and say, here we are. And now the ball is with the Brussels institutions. Please accept us first as a potential EU candidate and then as a EU candidate. And we will fulfill all the criteria. And our people, the Georgian people, want to vote in the European Parliament, the same like the Germans, the same like the Cypriots, the same like the Finnish, and the same like the Austrians. And it will be.
Okay. Do you think that Russia's current actions aim at stopping Ukraine and Georgia to get the EU membership? Because these two countries recently have made major progress towards the European and NATO integration, and we feel that the countries are close to join, closer at least to join. What do you think? Is Russia aiming at to stop these two countries to join the European Union and NATO?
Absolutely, absolutely, because Russia is very angry about this amazing progress which Georgia has made in the reforms towards EU accession. Georgia is most advanced country in many aspects towards European accession. And of course, that's very shocking for Russia. And also Ukraine, since Euromaidan has made tremendous progress. And that's, of course, very terrible news for Russia. And the best example is like this. When Mr. Michel, the president of EU Council, was in Batumi in the summer, on the 21st of July, it was this Meet Batumi Forum, and he signed this EU accession trio. You remember when it was the three presidents together and Mr. Michel, and that was really very good news. It took Russia only 3 days to break the 19th of April agreement and turn everything on the tables around, because that's how it works. The moment Georgia makes a big step forward, there comes the Russian counter reaction against the European future. And of course, we are in a big battle for the future of Ukraine and Georgia. That's no doubt. This is now since 12 years. but we will win this. And we have to be just smarter than the Russians. And we will win this fight for Georgian future. And if the Georgians, and that's the big thing, you have to be ready for Europe. You have to be determined. Yeah? You have to be clear that you want, and you just have to go. Go ahead, send the letter, do the reforms. And as I have said many times already, you remember, I'm also in favor of adopting the euro as currency in Georgia in order to make it so clear to Russia where the future of Georgia is like, and to make it clear to every single Georgian when he pays with the euro that the future is the European Union. And that is the future of your country. And you are very welcome. And we will be very successful together, because Georgians are great people, very intelligent, very smart, and they will contribute to the European Union a lot of good ideas and hard work and a lot of technology, and that will be very successful. And we will be also happy to visit your beautiful country, no doubt. But most important, it will be good market opportunities. It will be new prosperity for Georgia, because the last 30 years, you had some ups and downs, but a really big progress, of course, economically. It cannot happen if you're just a small country somewhere outside between Russia, Iran, and Europe. You have to join a big market, and that's the European market. And this prosperity we can develop together. Please join the European Union.
Thank you. Mr. Fehlinger, you yourself promoted the idea of EU 37, which means that 6 Balkan countries plus Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia would join the European Union by 2029.
Yes.
Do you think there is a window left for this still nowadays?
Look, I have no doubt in my heart that all these 9 countries, they will join the European Union, the same like Croatia, Bulgaria, and Romania. I talked with many young people like you in the 90s in Romania and Bulgaria and Croatia, and they asked me the same question, because it seemed impossible for Bulgaria and Romania, which was in the 90s much poorer than Georgia is today. It was a very desperate place. There was a full disaster. And now they are already, since 2007, they are already a member of the European Union, and they are very developed, and it's going very good there. So I think yes. And these 9 countries, I'm absolutely agreeing they will join the European Union. We are now 27, and then we will be 36. I hope also the United Kingdom will come back one day, so we will be 37. We will be a bit of changing and a bigger European Union, but that's very good. It's a great market, a good political freedom project, and it will be also that Georgia will fit very well together with the countries of the Western Balkans, Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania, all together. Yes, I'm absolutely sure. If it will take 2029, look, it's not so easy, because that would require all countries to be as successful as Georgia in reforming, and that's not so easy. It's not so easy to reform so fast. And it also, in my view, it requires a lot of leadership of Germany and of America and France to push for that, to invite you. And it requires as well the courage to basically unilaterally impose European policies in Georgia by yourself. Even when you don't feel invited, you would have to do all the reforms immediately now to be in 2029. That's not so easy, because there is also a lot of oligarchs in Georgia. There's also a lot of people who say, Russia is also a good market. And so it's not so easy to do that. So I don't think 2029 is realistic, but I say it's possible. And I want it to happen.
Probably it also depends on the European Union and how it will shape itself, because many say that European Union is not going to be the same in the future, and it's going to shape itself, and nobody knows how it's going to be. If it's going to be a federal union, or how the EU will end up. So we will see in the future how...
But we will be the same union, more or less, but we will change a bit, because we will be bigger, and we will be stronger, we will be more united, because with all these crises, now Russia is shaking us again. Yeah? But with every single crisis in the last 70 years, since NATO foundation and then EU foundation, the European Union has responded with the crisis to be stronger and more united. And again, now after we see what Russia can do to us just by putting 100,000 troops and threatening the gas reserves, we will be very independent from Russia in 10 years in gas, I promise you. And also we will be much more militarized and united together with NATO, because we will always respond to the crisis, and you will see a much stronger European Union, and a European Union which is also able to integrate Georgia, Ukraine, and Moldova and the Western Balkans. I promise you 100%.
In Georgia, there are rumors that the country will join NATO by 2023. What do you think?
Look, I'm very much in favor, but it requires certain sacrifices from the Georgians, because the only way a partially occupied country can join the European NATO, I was talking about NATO now, is the model of Western Germany. And Western Germany was invited as an occupied country because Eastern Germany was with the Soviets. Similar like you have Abkhazia and you have South Ossetia. So it requires that you basically say, at the moment, these two territories are lost for us. This is a very complicated political step. It was very complicated for Adenauer, the Chancellor of Western Germany, because many people called him a traitor, because the Soviets offered neutrality for Germany, like in Austria, for unity. But then they said, yeah, your unity is no longer so important, because obviously when Georgia joins NATO, you can no longer actively, militarily think about reconquest of Ossetia and Abkhazia, because we will not endorse that policy. So basically you stay divided, and this is a choice you have to make. And that's very complicated in your country. I know that, because you very much want to have Abkhazia and South Ossetia back. But you cannot ask us, the Germans, Austrians, or the Americans, to fight for that. It's impossible. So it basically means a division. NATO membership of Georgia means a division of your country for the long term, not forever, as you have seen in the German example as well. Once the Soviet Union fell, and the Eastern Germans ran to the Western Germans, and Germany was united. But this is the role model. And under that conditions, that you make the required constitutional changes and that you are ready for this kind of situation, you can join NATO. And I think it will also, the more aggressive Russia gets, the more the Western Europeans will be ready for Georgia and for Ukraine and for Moldova and for Kosovo and for Bosnia. These are the countries in question at the moment. I think yes, but it requires, in the case of Georgia, Ukraine, Moldova, that you basically, for the temporary moment, not legally, you never have to recognize the occupation, but you have to basically freeze this conflict like the German conflict was for 40 years. It's not easy, I understand. And many people will call a parliament which decides like this, and a government which says we don't aspire medium term the territorial integrity, they will call you treasonous. So this debate has to happen in Ukraine and Georgia. It's complicated, but it's necessary. And that's the way to join NATO. Then you will be safe. And I guarantee you, once the next Russian breakdown comes, and it will come, Russia will fall again, like it broke in 91, because of the economic situation. And then you can join these regions if they want. They can voluntarily join NATO member Georgia, EU member Georgia, and this will be very attractive, because the fastest EU enlargement and NATO enlargement made in the history made the East Germans, because Eastern Germany joined NATO and EU in 1 year. Because they joined Western Germany, they formed a new country, basically a new constitution, united Germany, and it was 16 million people, 16 million Eastern Germans. They have joined NATO and EU via joining Germany. And the same future is open for Crimea, for Eastern Donbass, for South Ossetia, and for Abkhazia, but not now. This must be on a free wish, and this must be on their consent. And for this to happen, you have to copy the Western German integration model of NATO from 1955.
Okay, thank you. Now let's move on to Turkey. And Turkey is located not far from the associated trio and the Balkan region, which are desperately trying to join the European Union. In Turkey, many say that the country is led towards dictatorship, and we have seen Turkish lira depreciation recently, and also imprisoning journalists. Among them was Kabash, a Turkish journalist, which called Erdogan a donkey. And it became a reason for the authorities to actually imprison a journalist. What do you think? Will Erdogan manage to stay in power after 2023 presidential elections?
Let me answer this in step by step. First of all, I condemn Turkey for imprisoning journalists so harshly because of just, a statement. Yeah, it is outrageous, and it should be a case for the Council of Europe and also in our EU-Turkey relation, because treating journalists so badly is an outrageous scandal. And I call for these charges to be dropped. And also because this journalist has the statement, I read it, she said that, when you go to a donkey goes to a palace, then it's still a barn. And actually she's right. Because, next point, to Mr. Erdogan. Mr. Erdogan started very good in the 2000s. He was a very pro-European reformer. But then after 2008 and 2013 especially, with Gezi, he has thought he can be like Putin a bit. And he saw this attraction to be like Putin. And obviously it was a complete disaster, because until 2013, Turkey was very successful economically. And since 2013, Turkey is in a big economic crisis. It is losing a lot of GDP. And it's a very sad situation. And 2016, then it was basically a big shock for the Turkish democracy. But I wouldn't say that Turkey is a dictatorship, because that's not correct. Yeah? He is an authoritarian personality in his old age, whose time is limited. And similar, like with Putin, he will fade away very soon. Maybe, who knows, he will win 2023, I don't know. Yeah? It's possible he can manipulate the situation and win. But, he will not be around in 2030. And I'm very sorry for the Turkish people if they continue to vote for him, because he has lost his drive for reform. His only idea is to make money and to be in power. He is no longer the same Erdogan of the first 15 years. Yeah? And so we should basically say goodbye to him. I think it would be much better relation on both sides when he will not be elected. So I wish him all the worst, to be honest. Third thing, Turkey cannot join the European Union. We have to be very clear. But we are already very closely cooperating in the EU customs union. And that's very important. So we can upgrade that relation, and we can offer Turkey something else. We can make a currency link between the Turkish lira and the European currency, the euro. Not introduce the euro like in Georgia, but a currency link like we have it in Bulgaria since 25 years, very successfully. Yeah? 25 years, yeah, since 97. And so that means we stop the further decline of the Turkish currency. And that's very important. Yeah? And we can also offer the Turkish people visa freedom towards the European Union. So we have many things we can do in order to improve, because we want a very strong Turkey. We want a very economically powerfully Turkey, because that's very important for Georgia, for Caucasus. That's very important for stability of the Middle East. And we want a very successful Turkey as our partner. But politically, membership is impossible. And I explain you why. Not because we are racist or have something against Islam. No, no, no. The situation is about foreign policy. Because Turkey lives in a region next, obviously, to the Caucasus, was just a war, to Syria, was just a war, to Iran, which is a complete dictatorship and a real disaster. And Turkey has a different foreign policy requirement than the European Union. And we are a political union, so we cannot have Turkey inside and then Turkey says, hey, we have to do a war in Syria, in Iran, in Azerbaijan, and we all have to go together now. Because that's really impossible for us. And we have a different geostrategic necessity, so we cannot be together in a political union for now. Maybe in 50 years in a more peaceful world, but for now, what we can do is economically work much closer together and stabilize the Turkish currency with a currency peg. And your country will be enormously, I don't know your country because you're from Georgia, but Turkey will be much richer, much stable. And it's very important for us because we have in NATO, we have the United Kingdom as the western flank and Turkey as the eastern flank towards Russia. So they are like two pillars of the Western defense system. And we need Turkey stable. It's very, very important. And the way is via the currency. The currency must be pegged to the euro, and this will be very beneficial for Turkey. And the investment will flow, the trade will flow, the prosperity will flow, and we will be a very stable EU-Turkish NATO partnership, very perfect. But membership is unfortunately not possible, but this partnership is very good for both sides.
It took days and nights for Georgia of 3 years to reform and approach the visa-free travel, which was included in the the DCFTA, Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Just a moment. So do you think, like while Kosovo cannot manage to get visa-free regime, do you think Turkey can get it anytime soon? Because as I mentioned earlier, Erdogan is actually going against the values that the European Union have. And he is imprisoning journalists, and the rule of law is also actually regressing, but not progressing. So do you think they will manage to get visa-free anyway?
Look, because you say Kosovo, it's very unfair that Kosovo doesn't get it. But it's also pleased by my friends, because maybe some of my friends in Georgia, they watch. It would be very nice if Georgia recognizes Kosovo, by the way. And that would be a very good step forward. The reason why Kosovo doesn't have visa liberalization is more connected to politics, because we have still Slovakia and Spain, which have not recognized, and Greece and Cyprus. So this is a big internal problem of the European Union. When it comes to Turkey, I say it like this. I don't think that anybody in the European Union is ready to give Mr. Erdogan a success like visa liberalization before his presidential election. I don't think so, because he is very unpopular now, because he has behaved quite annoyingly towards the Europeans. And there were a lot of provocations on both sides, but I don't think they will be ready. But if Turkish people vote for a different president in 2023, and there comes like somebody like the mayor of Istanbul or some famous opposition leader and to be the president of Turkey, and he comes to Brussels and says, hey, I'm a reasonable person. Can we make business? I need some success here. Then I think it's absolutely possible that visa liberalization, the currency peg, and the deepening of the customs union is on the market here, especially if Turkey says, I understand the EU candidate status is a bit too much now. Let's make a new partnership. And as part of this partnership deal, I think visa liberalization is something I would definitely support it, because it's something we can give something for the new president. We can give something on the currency, on the customs union, and the new president can also give something on very important issues of strategic importance. And so we make a new kind of marriage between Turkey and the European Union inside NATO, but on a respect basis, on a serious basis, on one which is lasting for another 20, 30 years. And then we will see if there is the conditions met also, because the region is getting more peaceful and Turkey can also join the political union. But this is for a distant future, which is not so easily possible. But when you ask me visa liberalization, I think absolutely, because it has proven a big success with Ukraine, with Georgia and the Balkans. It was not a big problem. And, you know, we have already so many Turks in the European Union. and mostly they are actually very integrated, very successful, and they contribute. Like the most famous case is the personality from Turkey whose parents came to Germany, Mr. Şahin, and he has invented this biotech vaccine, this Pfizer vaccine. And he, you know, he's a very popular man in Germany and Austria now, and he's like a hero, a national hero. And so we have many like these cases. So I think visa liberalization is an issue like a package deal, which we have to find with a new president of Turkey after 2023.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and for answering my questions. This was all for today, and I hope we will meet each other again with even more interesting topics and more positive topics, let's say.
You're always welcome, and thanks a lot for the interview, and best regards, and for European future of Georgia.
Thank you very much.
I stop recording now.